meine Freiheit, ja, ich will ja meine Freiheit haben, so dass ich wohnen kann, wo ich will.
Jesteśmy prawdziwi prawicowcy.
فاصله مجموعی است از وقفه‌های در حرکت.
Buongiorno a tutte e a tutti, siamo qui con un altro appuntamento in avvicinamento a 3070 Doc Fest che sarà dal 19 al 21 di novembre al Multisala Verdi di Vittorio Veneto, alla sala 2. Oggi avremmo con noi il regista di The Last Nights of the Right Side, il film che verrà proiettato alle 21 di sabato 20 novembre, un film che viene dalla Polonia, che osserva e indaga i movimenti di estrema destra in Polonia, un film molto forte che di sicuro genererà un grande dibattito, un film che va oltre l'opinione, cerca di scavare dentro il passato, il presente di queste persone, cercando di capire le motivazioni, ma anche le azioni dell'estrema destra. Lo fa con una grande consapevolezza e con un distacco che ci permette di valutare il contesto. Il film, come dicevo, sarà l'evento conclusivo della seconda giornata. Vi invitiamo a venire a vederlo in presenza. Oggi abbiamo qui con noi il regista Michal Edelman. L'intervista sarà condotta in inglese. Welcome, Michal.
Hi,
Hi, where are you?
I'm in Warsaw. Yeah, so that's not Italy, unfortunately.
I think it's colder, but I'd like to start with you if you can describe in your own words what Last Night of the Right Side is about.
I think it's just about this organization, this Polish radical nationalist organization. So that's in a nutshell. I think it's really that's just it. So it's just about a few people from a right-wing extremist organization.
And how do you come to this history to film these people? What was the main purpose for you when you first thought of your film?
I think the political situation in Poland, generally speaking, I just felt that I just saw a growth of interest, especially in young people with those kind of ideologies. And I started thinking about the film, I have to count, like 4 years ago or something like that. It was so at that time there were like many articles about that, and I was really thinking, how is that possible? Why? What draws people to these kind of organizations and ideologies? And so that was my interest. Why? What's going on? How come?
And since you spoke about the political situation in Poland, could you describe or could you tell us about what is the political situation in Poland with the right wing? Because maybe for an Italian audience, it's not easily clear.
Yeah, of course. It's I'm not a specialist, and it's pretty complicated to somehow, precisely name things, because it's really, objective. It's not objective as well. So right now, the ruling party in Poland is PiS, which is a right-wing organization that as well has some kind of social tendencies as well, which is like social nationalist organization. I would call it myself like that. So it's a party that brings a lot of controversies, especially considering their policy against LGBT communities, as well anti-abortion laws, which are very strict. It's a party strongly connected to the church as well. So there are large portions of society that are very unhappy with the current government. We have many protests in Poland, especially in the recent times, considering the LGBT community and the abortion laws. So that's how I would call it, maybe.
And which is the relation between the main party in Poland and the organization you describe in the film? Because they both are in the right wing, but they have very different position, I think.
Completely different position, and this is where it gets really complicated, because it's really hard to tell. Most of the people in the organization that I filmed were not supporting the government, because the government wasn't right-wing enough for them. So, but basically what we could say, I think for certain, is that the current government is not discriminating these organizations in a very radical way. So there's like this kind of silent agreement that they exist and that it's fine, and they don't block their demonstrations, etc., etc., which is very interesting, because when I talk to them, the ONR, the super right-wing organizations, they actually have less members when PiS is ruling, because they are not in the opposition that much anymore. So that's a weird, kind of balance between they are kind of supported by the government. I mean, not supported, but they are not discriminated in a very serious way, but they don't like them, and the fact that they are not in such a strong opposition anymore makes the organizations weaker.
And about the organization, how was your first contact with them? What was the reaction they had at you want to film them during? I think it was a long period of time that you filmed them.
Yeah, it was a bit more than a half a year, so not like super long, but that was a long time. They were very skeptical at the beginning, especially because there's also in Poland, there are TV stations, the national TV stations, and there's TVN is like the biggest private TV station, and there's a huge history of Polish journalists, especially TVN journalists, trying to get there, film something, to discriminate them and to, find trouble. And because of that, they are really, really cautious when it comes to letting people in. So they really don't want to do that ever. But I was pretty lucky, because my friend just met a member of ONR working on another film. He was a guard for the crew, and they just met because of that. And Patrick, who later did the film with me as my production manager, he just contacted us because he knew I tried to make a film like that for a year or something, which was completely impossible. But then, because of this private connection to this guy, Marek, which is also a character in the film, the big guy, somehow after conversations and me explaining them my motivation and what I want the film to be, and that it's not TV, it's something completely different, blah 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 blah. So that kind of helped me out.
And after this first reaction and the fact that you passed by Marek, what was your relation with them during the filming of the film? You were detached, or you're kind of establish a relation, also a friendly relation with them?
I would say it was something in between, because on one hand I wanted to have a relationship with them which is personal, which is a person to person somehow connecting, which was very difficult for me, especially because of the fact that I was hiding my name. My last name, Edelman, is like a very Jewish name and is very recognized in Poland because of famous political figure and historical figure Marek Edelman, which I'm not related to. But so that was an obstacle as well. But I tried to keep our relation, because of those ideological differences and my own personal view of them. I tried to keep the relations a bit professional, a bit, just like colleagues from work, something like that. So we didn't talk like super. I didn't share my perspective on things. I didn't talk about myself, which I normally would do with a documental, with a character in my film. So I would try to talk about myself and just be vulnerable in front of them so we could share. But in this case, I was trying to be honest. I was trying to say what I'm looking for, what I need, and just not to lie ever, but not to share too much, just to find a balance between those two things.
Okay. And what was the most surprising thing you discovered in filming your film? Because what we are looking is really something different from the opinion or the media idea that we have of the right-wing party and the extreme right. But what was, in your experience, the biggest surprise you had?
It wasn't one biggest surprise. It was, a series of little surprises every time I talked to a person, so that was that was how I just, connected with the material. I just felt, oh, this is interesting. This guy had cancer and his parents left Poland, and that's why he's so angry, from a very young age. So that was a surprise. And many of those kind of little surprises were there for me. And as well, what surprised me is I just really felt that this kind of organization really grows when there's more anger around them. So if you throw the bottle at them, they will kick your ass. And if you will just try to talk to them or just try to vote them out, or just try to, so that helps more, I think, than trying to fight them, because they like fighting. So that was my perspective on that.
And they're very military also in the way they propose themselves. And what is during the film we have a a moment of tension with the police, but also the police it was a factor in Poland. And what is their relation with the police, and what is the police doing in Poland nowadays with LGBT movement and everything?
This is also very not obvious, because police hate ONR, ONR hates police. So you would thought, okay, so the LGBT movement likes the police because they are protected by them, but this is not the case as well. The police fights everybody that demonstrates. So ONR doesn't like them, LGBT community, left wing doesn't like them as well. So it's just, right now it changed, because it was more logic like a year ago, but now the protests started a year ago, which were very rough. The police was really rough for the anti for the pro-abortion protests. There were some fights, there was a lot of gas used, and that was very rough. So right now everybody is fighting the police in Poland. That's the case. But both as well ONR as the left of Poland is unhappy with the police being not brutal enough with the other side. So that's like a super complicated situation right now.
And what is, in your perception, the future of ONR? Is something that will keep growing, or just it will kind of dissolve itself in different factions and different
I
people?
think it's a mystery, it's a complete mystery. I think there will always be, because the tradition of this organization comes, starts after World War I. So that's when it began. I don't think there will ever be like a time that they don't exist, but it depends on the politics, I guess, because right now there is a movement there's a political party, like super right-wing political party, which has not bad statistics right now in Poland. And I think it will, during next year or two, we will know how big of a political power it is, this extremely right wing. So it's a mystery right now.
And I had a curiosity, because a lot of symbols kind of remind the Nazi party, in Hitler Nazi party specifically. And I was very interested in what do you know which is their perception of the World War II for them? Because Poland has had a very important role in World War II, and they was really against Hitler German, but which are their excuses for their operation? Because I'm really interested, because it's something also in other country that we are trying to make an excuse for everything, for Mussolini or Hitler. And I was curious, because every kind of symbology in their I don't know, clothes and flags reminds of Hitler National Socialist Party.
This is super interesting, because I think this is the reason why they are being called Nazis in Poland very often, post-Nazis or Nazis. And they, when I talk to them, they are strongly, against Nazi Germany.
Okay.
in this period, but they every time, I think this is also, they are really into the history. So every time when I talk to them about the symbols and about the imagery, they will say, okay, but this symbol dates back to something, to a different period of time, and the Nazis took it. And so this is, every time I hear something like that, it's not a Nazi symbol. Or as well, the Heil, the greeting, they say, okay, but the Romans greeted themselves that way. And I don't quite understand, because it looks like it's a game of provocation. It looks like it's a game of somehow being on the verge of getting, just really extreme, but they don't quite do that. It's somehow very important for them to have an original attitude towards those symbols. So this is Roman, or this is blah blah blah. Every time something different, but they just somehow need it for them to be extreme and to be different than the regular person, I think, to use those symbols.
In other terms, we can say that they live the contradiction of living in a globalized world, and their willing is to be no globalized at all. Like they're very nationalist, and also they're like nationalizing symbols and everything. What is the percentage? I don't want to say percentage, but what is the role of unknown and or unwritten contradiction in their thoughts and speeches and everything? In your opinion,
It's extreme, I think, because they don't have a cohesive ideology. They don't have a book. They don't. It's really tough to talk to them and to try. I did that. I actually did that. All the conversation that I did with them, they were more than 2 hours long. Every time I was trying to understand what is the, I don't know, for example, because we want to come back to the great Polish, kingdom. That's the idea, okay? But then I'm asking, what is it? When was that? What do we want to come back to? And the answers are different. The answers are different to that question. There is no such thing. Nobody knows. It's an idea. So I think in many cases this is how it works. It's there's a general idea of like they understand themselves, each other within the organization generally, but all of them have their very specific kind of ideology that differs from one another. Probably there's, it works like that in every case. But this is very weird because they have those super strong manifestations and speeches, and they shout, they just bond together over them. And when you dig deeper, it's really hard to find like a cohesive path through those ideologies.
And in regards of what you're saying, how is the process for them of investure of a leader? Because you interviewed a leader, and why is there, and also how he managed to taking all this contradiction and putting in a coherent speech for the understand of everyone.
I think it's, what I found most interesting about this particular organization, because I can't say about any more, is that they have really strong personal connections with each other. When I asked them what is ONR for them, they said family, you know. So this is really often lonely people who just need connection with other lonely people, and often poor people as well, poor angry people in a way. So I think even when it comes to getting the leader, you know, it's a guy who was there for a long time. He just had more and more of those kind of connections, and like not connections in a political way, but like real personal connections, good reputation, and so that's I lost you. Oh, you're there. Okay. So that's that. So I think and when it comes to creating the cohesive, you know, ideology, my theory, which is only my theory, no science behind it, is that it's not actually that important, I would say. What's really important is the sense of community they have, the fact that they travel together, you know, to other cities, they shout, they have those meetings, they train together, they talk to each other, they exchange opinions, they you know, so that's, I think that's the core, is identity, finding identity, which is clear and helps you live in a way that is more fulfilling for you, because you just know what's right, or you just have the feeling of knowing what's right.
And how your perception of them changed from the day you started filming them, and in which direction? Where is your perception now of them? And
you know, it's a big topic. It's not I don't have an answer for that, because it's, you know, it's very particular to the people and to this specific organization. But my main idea was what I talked about before, this community, this sense of community, that there is something very important for people to be together and to be united. And I even thought that maybe if they grew up in a different city with different friends, these same people would be in a national leftist party, because it doesn't matter. That was my conclusion, which is not useful politically speaking, because it doesn't mean anything. But on a humanist level, which I feel is the closest to mine, that's what I felt, that they're kind of the same as we are, just like trying to, you know, just be happy, you know, the easiest way.
thank you so much, Michal. It was really interesting and deep also to dive in the ONR with you, and I will switch to Italian just to end this conversation, but thank you so much for being with
Thanks a
us.
lot.
Ringraziamo ancora Michal per essere stato qui con noi. Vi ricordo che il suo film, se vi è piaciuto quello che avete sentito, se siete curiosi di scoprire di più su The Last Night of the Right Side, potete scoprirlo, potete farlo il sabato 20 novembre alle 21 al Multisala Verdi di Vittorio Veneto, sala 2. Il film, come dicevamo, è un'osservazione scioccante sui gruppi di estrema destra in Polonia. Io vi ricordo che potrete scoprirlo quel giorno e dal 22 di novembre al 22 di dicembre online. Vi ringrazio per essere stati qui con noi. Ci vediamo domani alle 14 con Caroline Pitzen di Freizeit or the Opposite of Doing Nothing, e poi alle 17 con Sanaz Sorabi, regista di One Image Tracks. Grazie mille ancora e buona serata.
Grazie.
einfach meine Freiheit, ja, ich will ja meine Freiheit haben, so dass ich wohnen kann, wo ich will.